I have taken the liberty of drawing on a little loincloth on the front. I'll show a little bit on the back. In this photo, I can't tell if he's got one on or not, but you know, it's a good idea for a guy dressed in traditional garb to have a traditional loincloth. So we'll put that there, and not worrying about it being a straight cut across there. It would have been made obviously out of cloth, hence loincloth. It girds the loins. Now I'm going to push everything up under that with this flat gouge sweep. And as I'm doing that, just pushing everything else just up under the shirt. Do the front, do the same in the front. I guess this is what two-dimensional carvers do. They can just cut and then push back to wherever they need it to be to get some depth. Show some shadows, move those shadows around. Man, I am not good at 2D carvings or flat carvings. I don't know why. I don't know why. Of course, I don't know why about a lot. And again, just pushing the side of the legs up under his shirt. And I think I'm about ready to, well, I was going to say something, about ready to round it off a little bit more. And that's all I'm doing here, is just kind of rounding it to a body shape. This side needs to be brought in a bit to match the front. Same thing over here on this side. And now I'm just looking at this part of the back. Like you can see where it, from here, it goes out and curves. And it really needs to go up like that. That's the way that needs to look. So that's what I'll be cutting from the back down to this line, because that is a profile line drawn on there. While I'm cutting across here, I'm either using the side of this gouge or the heel. And the same thing on this side, just to kind of show it goes like from there up like that. It needs to get that hunch off his back. And you can tell, like, what I'm doing is just cutting from this line to that line as flat as I can. I can tell that grain is going up that way, so I'm going to make better looking cuts, bringing it back across here. And I'm leaving those lines, but I know they're going to have to go eventually, but I just don't want to do that close of a cutting right now. And I was just feeling around on it because these pieces, or this part, as I get that done, this part of the arm here is a bit much. A lot of this right here has to go, but I don't want to do that until I really have to, because I'm going to lose all my strength in that little part when I start narrowing that down. This stuff I have to go sooner or later, and I'll just do it as I'm shaping the outside of it on the back. What I don't want to do is cut this part to where it's past this part. So that's why I'll won't really, pardon the pun, gouge into it too much right now. The outside part of this headdress will get real thin, get feather thin, because it's feathers. But right now, I'm leaving a whole lot out there. I know it's going to come off later. I know it's picking up some of this, but man, this is pretty carving wood right in here. Always happens in the back of a cigar store Indian, where there's really, people don't look at much, you don't really worry about it much. Has some real pretty grain. And I may as well cut that down to where it should be. kind of hate to be at the point that I am, but I'm just going to have to start putting in details now. We're going to have to nail this thing down. It's looking pretty close right now. Okay, what I'm gonna do a couple things here off camera. I'm gonna work this down, get this in position real good, get the facial deals in position, and kind of nail those down. So I'll do that off camera and be back after I've got those marked out. Okay, what I'm doing here is working on the base part of this. Got a little bandsaw mark here that I'm going to go under, and this is too high, that's too high, so I get my big sweep. Just going up to that with it. Here's that bandsaw cut mark. I'm going to use the old mallet now to get rid of a lot more wood that I can just push off. Of course, it's going to turn. It's alright, I'll just turn it back. And even though I know I'm going to take off a lot of wood, sometimes it's easier just to push it to get it started. Because I don't want it, I want it looking kind of like he's on a little bit of a hill, but more of just a rounded top. You can see a little bandsaw mark here, so that's really all I'm doing here is getting that out of there. For me, when I get down to doing this stuff, and it doesn't, look at the way that cuts. You see how rough it is? Right there. But yet if I just push it, it's much better. What I'll do, I'll get a good sharp edge on this tool and go back over this. In some ways, like, it cuts better going that way. Has to do with the grain, the sharpness of the tools, and even though I think these are pretty sharp, this wood is kind of extra soft, a lot more soft than I like. I usually don't have it tearing out like that, but it does every now and then, and I've been carving on some softwoods. Using it like this, it's kind of like using a skew. I'm cutting here, and this is turned, and I'll cut across that, across the edge, and you can see it makes a, I guess that's a good lesson in cutting. You don't just, if you just shove it straight across, you probably can't see it, but there's some rough edges there. But if you do it like a scraping, they're not near as bad. But they are bad in some parts of this. And when I make the final cuts back here, it'll be like having to strop a razor. Every time you cut, you'll have to strop it to get it to where it won't leave marks. And that's kind of aggravating, but that's happens from time to time. And you can also, well, you can't see much of that. That tore out too much. But it kind of just goes with the grain. Man, there's no way. Well, there is way. My tool is really too dull, so hold on. Alright, let's see what betterment, if any, that is. It is better. Man, those tore deep though. They left scar material down there. I don't know if you can see all those pull marks there, and it just cuts right off when that tool is sharp. I'm holding it with my hand over here on this side, but it's way behind this far leg, where out of the way of the blade. And now well, it's time to quit, I guess. The carving screws pulling out of the piece of wood now, so I'll need to go back in and tighten that up. So it'll be a good time after I get this done to call it quits for the day. And even as you cut with this, you can turn it, rotate the gouge, and it'll also do like a skew action. And it's easy, it makes it easier, I think, to cut. And I do that, I guess, on nearly all my cuts. I just don't think about it. But it also will make it clean. Okay, you can just see a faint line there, and we'll get back on it tomorrow.